Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. This time we're tackling Yuval Noah Harari's Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. Or, well, not the whole book exactly.
Right.
We're looking at a single book review.
Yeah, a really insightful one, though.
It is.
It gets right to the heart of the book.
For sure.
And some big ideas.
Exactly. Perfect for anyone short on time. But big on curiosity.
Absolutely.
So like the cognitive revolution, for example. That's right there in the review, right at the beginning. This major turning point, 70,000 years ago.
It's 70,000 years ago.
When us Homo sapiens, well, we basically leveled up.
We did.
But what exactly changed?
Well,
how did we go from just another primate to rulers of the planet?
Well, the review highlights this development of abstract thought, right?
Okay.
We learn to communicate through this complex language. And crucially, to believe in these shared myths.
Shared myths.
Like, think about it for a second.
Okay.
Religion, nations, even money. These aren't physical things.
Right.
They're ideas that exist because we all agree that they do. And that agreement,
Yeah.
that's what lets us cooperate on this massive scale.
Okay, so you're telling me that. My ability to, like, order takeout online,
Yeah.
that relies on this ancient mental leap
Yeah,
that our ancestors made.
pretty much.
That's wild.
It really is. And think about it. No other species on Earth can do that.
Hmm.
This capacity for these shared myths, that's arguably what set us apart from all the other species and allowed us to build these empires and create these economies and dominate the globe.
Okay, shared myths, good for global domination. Got it. But then, the review takes us to the agricultural revolution.
Yeah.
About 10,000 years ago.
Yep.
Now we're taught that farming was a huge leap forward, right?
Rare.
But the review, it presents a different take.
Yeah, a bit more controversial.
Yeah, controversial. So what's Harari saying?
Well, he argues, and the review emphasizes this, that agriculture may have actually been a trap.
A trap.
A trap.
But it led to larger populations and settlements, right?
It did.
And eventually the rise of cities and civilization.
Exactly. But
Right.
it also brought something that we hadn't really seen before.
What's that?
Social hierarchy.
So instead of everyone pitching in, like with hunter-gatherer groups, you suddenly have landowners and laborers.
Right.
And this whole power structure that leads to inequality.
Precisely. And the review talks about how this impacts people's lives.
Yeah.
You know, Harari suggests, and the reviewer seems to agree,
Okay.
that while hunter-gatherers, they might have worked less and had more diverse diets.
Okay.
But agricultural life was often more labor-intensive, and there was this reliance on a limited number of crops.
Because you're saying that our ancestors who roamed free and foraged for food might have been happier than those who settled down and started farming.
It's possible.
That really goes against everything I learned in school.
Well, it's definitely thought-provoking, isn't it?
It is.
It makes you question what we really mean by progress. I mean, is it just about technology and society?
Right.
Or should we be considering things like individual well-being, social equality?
Yeah, that's a great point. Sometimes we think about progress without thinking about the trade-offs.
You got it.
It's a good reminder to think critically about the systems we live in, right?
Absolutely. And, you know, this ties directly into one of Harari's main ideas in Sapiens.
Look at that.
Understanding how these historical shifts have shaped who we are today.
Okay, so we've gone from the cognitive revolution to the maybe not so great agricultural revolution. What comes next in this whirlwind tour of history?
Well, the review then looks at how humanity gradually became more interconnected, leading to what Harari calls the unification of humankind.
Right, because even though people were settling down and forming these separate societies, we weren't exactly isolated, right?
Not at all. The review points to empires playing a role in this. But even more importantly, it points back to those shared myths.
Shared myths again.
Shared myths again. Think about it.
Okay.
Religion spreading, trade routes connecting continents, and eventually systems like money emerging. These all transcended those geographical boundaries and those cultural differences.
So even though people might have spoken different languages or worshiped different gods, they could still find common ground through trade, shared beliefs, and these larger systems that connected them.
Exactly. It's amazing how these seemingly abstract concepts could create a sense of belonging and this shared purpose on a scale that was previously unimaginable.
Like the Roman Empire.
Yeah, the Roman Empire is a great example.
It wasn't just military might that held it together.
It wasn't.
It was a shared legal system, common infrastructure, and the belief in the Roman pantheon of gods It makes you realize that globalization isn't this new phenomenon. It's been happening for centuries.
For centuries.
And this all happened before the internet, before smartphones and all that. It's almost more impressive when you think about it that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it highlights the power of ideas and these shared narratives to shape human behavior and connect us across huge distances.
But of course, the story doesn't end there.
It doesn't.
Because then comes the big one, right? The scientific revolution. And bam, everything changes again.
Everything changes. The review emphasizes that the scientific revolution wasn't just about new discoveries, but a fundamental change in how we view knowledge.
Okay.
And our place in the universe.
So it wasn't just about figuring out that the Earth revolves around the sun.
It wasn't.
It was about changing the entire framework for how we understood the world.
Exactly. And that shift, it had a huge impact, leading to all these advancements in medicine, technology, our understanding of, well, pretty much everything.
But as you might expect, there's a catch.
A catch or two.
Or a few. Because the review makes it clear that the scientific revolution isn't all sunshine and roses.
It isn't.
There are some pretty serious consequences that we're still dealing with today.
Absolutely. And the review doesn't shy away from that at all.
Oh, good.
But highlights the environmental damage that comes from industrialization, the social inequalities that get worse because of these advancements, and the ethical issues that come with artificial intelligence and genetic engineering.
It's like we unlock this power.
We did.
But we're still figuring out how to use it responsibly. And the choices we make now are going to have huge consequences for the future.
They will.
Especially someone like me, who relies on technology for pretty much everything.
It's a lot to think about.
It is.
But that's what makes Sapiens so compelling.
Yeah.
And this review does a great job of capturing that. It makes us confront these uncomfortable truths and think critically about the direction we're headed. But what's really interesting is how Harari, as highlighted in the review, goes even further and starts speculating about the future of humanity itself.
Oh, no, that's where things get really mind-blowing.
Yeah.
We're talking AI, biotechnology, maybe even superhumans. We have to get into that.
We do.
But I think this might be a good stopping point for now.
You know, it's funny. When you read Sapiens, or even just this review,
Yeah.
you realize that the future Harari talks about, it isn't some far-off sci-fi thing.
Right.
It feels grounded in where we are now, with all this technology developing so fast.
Exactly. It's like he's saying, look, we're on this path, so let's really think about where it goes.
Yeah.
Like biotechnology, we're already editing genes.
Right.
And then AI, algorithms that can learn and solve problems better than us in some cases.
It makes you wonder.
It does.
Where do we go from here?
And that is the big question, right?
It is, and the review really gets into it. Like Harari talks about creating superhumans through genetic engineering.
Oh.
Imagine a world where people are designed to be stronger or smarter, or live longer than others.
That's like something out of a movie. But it could actually happen.
It could?
The review makes you stop and think about the ethics. It's not just what we can do, but what we should do.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the key takeaways from the review and from Sapiens overall. It's encouraging us to really think about the direction of scientific progress and not just accept it as good or inevitable.
But it's not all doom and gloom, is it?
It's not.
I mean, these technologies, they have the potential for good, too. The review talks about AI helping with climate change.
Right.
Or new medical treatments.
Absolutely. The point is that these are tools. And like any tool, they can be used for good or bad. The review is challenging us to think about how we can use these tools to make a better future for everyone.
So it's not about rejecting technology. It's about being mindful of its impact and making good choices about how we use it.
Exactly. Like, you wouldn't just hand a toddler a chainsaw, right?
Right.
You teach them how to use it safely.
Exactly.
We need to do the same with these powerful technologies.
Okay, so we've gone from the cognitive revolution to superhumans. This review highlights the scope of Sapiens for sure.
It does.
But it mentions something else that really caught my eye.
What's that?
Harari's writing style.
Ah, yes. The review praises how he makes these complex topics accessible and even enjoyable to read. He doesn't get bogged down in all the jargon or dry historical facts. Right. He tells a story. He uses vivid examples and metaphors and even humor to keep you interested.
That's so important when you're talking about human history.
Yeah.
Which can feel kind of overwhelming sometimes.
It can.
You need a guide.
You do.
To make the connections clear and keep you on board.
Exactly. And the review does a great job of showing how Harari does that. It makes you want to pick up the book yourself and experience it firsthand.
But beyond that, There's a deeper point
There is.
that connects what we were talking about earlier.
Oh, what's that? Well, Harari's ability to tell this great story, it's actually linked to his main idea.
Okay.
The power of shared myths.
Shared myths again.
Shared myths again. He's basically showing that narratives, even historical ones, they're ways of making sense of the past and shaping how we understand the present.
That's really meta. So by writing this engaging book, he's actually reinforcing his point about storytelling being fundamental to the human experience.
Exactly.
And that's a pretty powerful insight. It makes you realize that history isn't just about dates and facts. It's about interpretation and perspective. And the stories we tell ourselves about the past, that makes you think.
It does.
Whose stories are being told? Whose voices are we hearing?
Yeah.
How does that shape our understanding?
It's a whole other deep dive.
It is. But for now, I think we've done a pretty good job
We have.
unpacking this review and Sapiens. But before we wrap things up, I want to bring this back to the listener. What does this all mean for you? Why should you care about the cognitive revelation or superhumans?
Well, I think the important thing to remember is that understanding the past helps us understand the present and navigate the future.
So it's like having this big picture view of history
Exactly.
helps you see the patterns,
Yeah.
the connections, the mistakes, and the opportunities to do better.
Right, and that's why Sapiens is so valuable. Even this little glimpse we've gotten, it challenges us to think about our assumptions, to think critically about the world, and to consider our role in the future.
I love that. So it's not just about passively listening. It's about actively engaging with these ideas and seeing how they connect to your life.
Exactly.
And your choices.
And I think the review does a great job of making you curious and encouraging you to learn more.
I'm definitely adding Sapiens to my reading list.
Me too.
But before we get lost in our thoughts, it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Okay.
Any final words of wisdom?
Just that the review really only scratches the surface of what Sapiens has to offer.
It does.
It's a book you can read and reread and discuss and really think about. So if you're interested in what we've talked about, I highly encourage you to pick up Sapiens and go on your own journey through history.
Perfectly said. It's like opening a door to a whole new world of thinking. And that's what the deep dive is all about. So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep. You know, it's kind of crazy how much we've covered just from a single review.
I know, right?
We've gone from like the dawn of humanity to the future of our species.
All in one deep dive.
It's a testament to Harari's scope in Sapiens.
It is.
But also the reviewer, you know, to distill it all down.
Totally. It's like they gave us this taste of a gourmet meal.
And now we want more.
Right.
And that's a good thing, I think. This isn't just about summarizing a book review.
No.
It's about sparking that curiosity and, you know, giving you the tools to go further.
Absolutely.
So think of this as like your intellectual appetizer.
Oh, I like that.
We've hit some key points. But there's so much more
There is.
to discover in Sapiens itself.
Harari goes into so much more depth, weaving together history and science, and even a bit of philosophy and humor.
Right, and what I love about this review is that it doesn't tell you what to think. It makes you think for yourself.
It does.
It raises more questions than it answers.
Right.
Which is the sign of a good book, right?
I agree. And that's one of the most valuable things, I think, that you can take from this.
What's that?
The importance of asking questions, challenging assumptions, and approaching knowledge with that curiosity.
So, if you're even a little intrigued by what we've talked about, I really think you should check out Sapiens. It could change how you see the world, your place in it, and what might be possible in the future.
It's a journey of discovery, not just through history, but through being human.
That's a great way to put it. It might even inspire you to write your own chapter in the story.
It might.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us. For this deep dive into Sapiens, we hope you found it insightful and thought-provoking. And remember, keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep diving deep.